What's up guys, HazardEdit here and welcome to another game hacking, memory hacking tutorial. And in this tutorial we'll be for the first time doing something with the memory in the game. So what I have here is the game and I have a functioning Bunnyhop. Never mind, so it works pretty well, even with recording, maybe laggy, and it's slow at getting the information if I'm in the air or not. You can see on the left when I hit space or hold space it says jumping in green, and when I'm not then it says standing. So I'm basically not standing, I'm running around, but it doesn't matter. So in my introduction video I showed you something from the memory in CSGO, and I told you that you can read if you're jumping or not, or if you're in the air or not in the game. So we'll be looking at that in a second. So I'm gonna quit this program, I'm gonna open cheat engine, so it's not going to find something like this, but here. So I'm opening cheat engine and I forgot to open it before the tutorial started, so I'm sorry for that. Okay, let's attach the process. So I'm going to attach the CSGO process and I'm going to add the local player memory address. And why I'm doing that is, as I mentioned, I'm not going to show you how to get addresses at first, but doing the hacks, because you can find the addresses on the internet. So okay, so we're here at the player base and we can look into it, browse memory region once again, tools, and then dissect data structures, and then define new structure. Okay, yes, okay. Okay, so here we are at the player base, right? And we know that FC is health and F0 is team, so I'm currently at the terrorist, so my team is 2. And let's put this on this side and we want to try to find out what we need, right? So I'm going to show you how to find what we need, and it's really interesting. So I'm not going to move anything, so you can see there's stuff happening here, down here doing shit, so you can tell that it's not what we need. So I'm gonna jump, just jump, and we're going to see what's happening, right? So I can see it, maybe you can see it too. There's stuff happening while I jump. See, I jump, you can see down here something is happening. This is the hive, I believe. I'm not sure, but I can look. I'm walking. As I'm walking up, the hive going up. You might think that this is what we need, right? But then you have to ask yourself, how does the triggerbot, how does the Bunnyhop know whether we jump and it's getting higher, or we're walking up the stairs and then we suddenly start bunny hopping? So that wouldn't be working out well, right? So there is something else you can see. It's an indicator for jumping, and it's the 257 here. So once I'm in the air it's 256 and then it's back 257. You can see that, right? And we know where it is, so it's 100. It's 100 from our player base. And if you have taken note of the code in the background, I have something which says 100, and this is basically what we were looking for. So let's close this again because we don't need it anymore. So it's called flags. If you're looking for the address in Google, if something changed, I don't know, it's called flags. And why there is an O is because it's an offset. And the local player base is an address, so it's not basically an offset. I call, I'm not sure if it's correct, but I call addresses something like which is really far away, and an offset is something you go off from an address. Not sure if that's the right term, but this is how I do it, so I know this is just an offset going from something. And this is the address, for example. Jump is the full address, right? So yeah. What do we have here? So we need the system, we need the diagnostics, we need the runtime interrupt services for the DLL right here. And we're using the user32 DLL import to get the async key state. This is basically looking at if you're pressing a key, right? You want to jump, you want to keep the bunny hop as long as you hold the space button. Once again, the process is CSGO, and base client is the base client address, of the client DLL. We'll look into that in a second. And yeah, as well said, here are the addresses. So let's look into the main. So we can see I'm declaring a VA memory from my process csgo, and then I'm checking if this condition is true. So what we are doing here, and it's a bool because that's how I made it. You can do it you can do it any how you want. But I'm looking if I can get the client DLL base address. So I'm looking at the processes. I'm getting the process by name, which is csgo, as we have seen. So if we found more than 0 processes, basically 0, we didn't find any, and we should find 1, right? If we found 1, we are going for each module which is used by the process in the process array. The first one, which is the place 0, we're getting its modules, and if we find the module name client DLL, this is our proper module we want to look into. So we're getting the base address of that module to be client, and we return a true. So if this works. So because it has a client DLL, this condition is true. And then I'm presetting a force jump address, which is made out of the client base address and the address for jumping, which I found on the internet. And then I'm making one for the local player, because I can't just get the local player, I also need here the base client. So it's always, basically it's the same. If you're looking at how I name it, address and offset, you could say that basically the local player is the offset from base client. But since it's really far, I call it differently. It doesn't really matter, because it only matters that you understand what you're doing, right? And possibly if you got any questions anywhere, asking them, you should be able to explain to others what your question is. So I'm also getting the local player int, and since this is a pointer, it gets me the address of the address of the other address. So I'm reading the address from the address local player, which points at me, and then I'm making an address for flags, which is the local player plus the flags offset. So we got that, and then we have a true while loop, which is continuing all the time, and I have a thread sleep, so it doesn't eat too much of the CPU. And then I'm checking if 32 is the spacebar key. So if it's greater than 0, then it's pressed. If it's not, then it's not pressed, right? So while we're pressing space, we read the flags using our address flags we made here. So basically here. So we're getting the int from flags, and if it's 257, so 257 means on the ground, 256 is in the air. So while we're in the air, it doesn't use us anything to jump, right? So while I'm pressing space, I want to jump, and therefore while I'm pressing space or holding space, let's say this way, while I'm holding space and we're on the ground, we jump. So jumping, we write the integer 5 and we write the integer 4. Why is that? It's just because you can also find for any force, there is not just force jump, force attack also, there are different integers to use to basically force and unforce. And between that I have a sleep, so it doesn't just immediately unforces it, but also has a break for that, because while we are holding we would have the loop going on and on and on without a break, right? So that will also be heavy on the CPU, right? So I have 10 minutes almost, but we're almost done. And for the displaying, if we're jumping and standing, I have a console clear and a write line. So basically clearing the console so we don't get like a ton of jumping, standing things, but we always have just one. So it's also really nice. And for hacks, now this particular hack is not really getting up much memory. So it has that from the start, but it doesn't like add up memory. You could use the garbage collector. So this is used to clear up memory, but you should be careful of that. People don't suggest to use it on hacks. It doesn't really matter because we're not like saving something in our memory, so we can just go ahead and delete it because we the process of reading and writing. You shouldn't be applying this to regular programs where you have things stored, but here it works well. I did it for the trigger bot, so everything fine. And yeah, so this is basically it. With this little code, we got the working Bunnyhop. So once again, I'm going to show you. See, I can Bunnyhop all around the map. My mouse is a bit slow from recording, I don't know. So yeah, this is basically it. I'm gonna quit this. So if you have any questions, you can go ahead and go to my forum and ask them there, because I will be available on my forum. And yeah, if you want to support me, go ahead and like me on Facebook or follow me on Twitter, because my tutorials are automatically posted on Twitter, so once I have a new one, so you keep up to date with me. And I also post sometimes announcement and other information about what's going on the channel in the next time, also on my Twitch. So yeah, thank you guys for watching and see you next time. Peace out.